Well, thank you all so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be here with us today. And going to just share my screen here. Hope everybody can hear me okay. My name is Kobe Sconard. I am the CEO, founder at IdeaWake, and really looking forward to sharing some of the content that we put together for you, specifically around how to save millions with an employee ideas sprint. So a little background on myself, like I said, founder and CEO at IdeaWake, and give a little more context on the company before we dive into things. But have an action-packed agenda for today over the next 30 minutes. So what we're going to do first is just dive into innovation and product development trends that have really happened during times of economic uncertainty. And nobody knows where things are going to go yet in terms of the economy. But obviously, some folks are starting to think about, right? And some folks are starting to feel, depending on industry, some of the pressures of supply chain uncertainty, as well as just demand uncertainty. Then we're going to go into 3 reasons it's critical to engage your staff and make them feel like they have a voice. 5+ examples, couldn't help myself, but a couple more other examples together of companies using crowdsourcing in order to save money and increase efficiency. And then most importantly, how you can take what you learn here today and start taking action. Really what I hope you get out of this presentation today is just helping set you up for success over the next 12 to 18 months, providing you some thought starters to help you justify running one of these idea sprints or innovation sprints if you haven't done so before. And then once again, providing you with that action plan to help you take action on what we cover. So just a little bit of background on us. So we're IdeaWake. We're a software platform that allows you to capture, evaluate, and implement employee ideas. We're powering programs in over 39 countries and 185 cities across 14 verticals. So we have a unique insight and experience on watching how folks are engaging with frontline staff and seeing how that trends over time. Just some of the different ways folks use the application, just once again for context as to why we know what we're talking about when it comes to the subject. So it's everything from just general suggestion box to portfolio management, running hackathons, or continuous improvement programs. So going into that first subject, which, looking at some of the trends for innovation and product development during times of uncertainty. So the time we're going to go back to right now is 2008, specifically between 2007 and 2010. We saw a 28% reduction in new product launches between that period of time. This was primarily driven by those disruptive or transformational type product launches. So things that weren't in the same category. As an example, if you were already selling a type of soap and you offered a super size of it, this wouldn't be incorporated in that. This is specifically brand new SKUs, or stop keeping units that were being tracked by this wonderful woman, Sarah, at the Kellogg Institute. That being said, although there's a 28% reduction, some companies doubled down on innovation and research and development. Specifically, everybody knows the story of Apple, but actually during this time, this was during the, not 2008, but the .com crash, Apple actually doubled down on product development and released the iPod coming out of that recession. So they came out as the market leader, and there's going to be some companies or some folks that work for companies here that are going to invest more in R&D during times of economic uncertainty. Often what we've found, especially for those disruptive or transformational type products that are going to create a brand new category of product that you're selling or create a new business model, a lot of those projects get put on hold in order to quote unquote keep the lights on. So really what this is designed for is to help those folks, as well as, if you're in an Apple right now, then you're going to stay the course with what you were doing. This presentation, a lot of the time, is designed for folks where they might be in that former category, where folks are trying to figure out what they're going to be doing and what their innovation program or improvement program is going to look like over the next 12, 18, 24 months. So one of the problems that is just inherent with innovation programs in general is that you're expected to do a lot with very few resources. And also, more importantly, business unit goals do not often align to the innovation program goals. So innovation programs, you're looking at longer term time horizon, whereas business unit goals, you're trying to hit quarterly and annual objectives. And that's really what your bonus is based on. So you're a lot more incentivized to do that versus collaborate with the innovation team. So where we used to be before this economic uncertainty and pre-COVID, was right here. Now, really what we're looking at with this economic uncertainty, supply chain issues, COVID, this gap has really increased. So it's even harder now than it was before. And it wasn't easy before a lot of the time to collaborate with different business units. But once again, a lot of it comes down to goal misalignment. And that's really the first focus of what we want to talk to y'all about today. So how to set your program up for success. Part of the issue is that your charter and why an innovation program might have been created is to go out and do things differently and disrupt the way that the business as a whole or specific business units are delivering services or delivering value to the customer. But really what we want to do is take a step back and get a really good lay of the landscape and understand first what the company-wide goals are. That one's normally pretty easy. But then looking at the short-term and the long-term KPIs of specific business units that you could potentially collaborate with. Then from there, what you want to do is do a comparison between your innovation program goals and KPIs, and then kind of looking here, get a mesh between those three things. A lot of the time, there's going to be, once again, that misalignment where there's a complete misalignment between the innovation program and the business unit, which is why it's so difficult to collaborate with them pre-COVID or pre-economic uncertainty, and now it's getting more and more difficult to do so. The implications of this is business units are just going to see us as an additional thing to do versus adding to their short or mid-term goals. And now that they're expected to do more with less, once again, that's just going to be exacerbated. But for our innovation program to be successful, we need to be able to pilot new solutions with business units and partner with them and take those successful pilots and potentially, if they are eventually company-wide, be able to take it from one business unit and replicate it across the rest of the organization. So if we're only seen as another thing to do and we're not getting support from leadership at the top, even if we are getting that support, if we're just seen as another thing to do, it's not going to be easy for you. It's going to be a constant uphill battle. So what you want to do first is just starting with goals that have alignment across all three: company, business unit, as well as innovation program. That is the holy grail, and it's near impossible. We really rarely talk to anybody that has alignment between all three. That being said, though, this sounds crazy, but looking at and talking to leadership about going to point number 2, second, is going to keep your innovation program relevant over the next 12, 18, 24 months. What we want to do is, in our opinion, and what we're really pushing for with our customers is showing quick value and showing how we can become more efficient and applying an innovative approach to that. Third is going towards business unit goal KPIs and your innovation program KPIs if there's overlap there. We'll send this out afterwards. A lot of text in here, obviously, but this helps you. Basically, it's an exercise that you can do in order to kind of figure out which business units would be best to align with based on business unit goals, as well as your specific goals as an innovation team or department. 3 reasons it's critical to engage frontline staff now more than ever. So employees that are closest to the product or process have best insights on how to improve it. And we've been able to do some primary research. So we did a survey. It was in 2021. We surveyed over 700 employees across the US and just asked about how well employers listened to their ideas. And we found that over 62% of respondents had ideas to make their companies better. 84% felt that they had a clear understanding of challenges facing the company. These ideas go beyond HR improvements. So a lot of it, majority, highest category is 57% of saving time. But also, there's 32% of folks that believe they have ideas to grow revenue within the company. And going into the times of economic uncertainty, and this is really where it's going to tie back to that engagement piece, because it's been such a focus for companies over the last couple of years is keeping folks engaged. And really one of the biggest drivers of that, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy, to help folks reach that self-actualization in their job, clear communication is key. But a lot of the time, this disappears in times of economic uncertainty. So one of the biggest drivers of engagement, 30% of respondents on this large survey from Recruiter said that a lack of open, honest communication is the most negative impact on employee morale. And there's no better example of this to kind of bring it home than what just happened recently with Coinbase. So for those who aren't familiar, Coinbase is a cryptocurrency trading platform, first one to go public in the world. And so they were on a hiring spree. Things were going great for them leading up 2021. 2022 hit, economic uncertainty started. They laid off 18% of their workforce within a literal 72-hour period. And most of the employees that got let go found out on the news that there were layoffs happening in the first place. And went to access their computer the next day, and couldn't log in and got an email to their personal email saying that they had been fired. Understand that from a security standpoint, but just the fact that the CEO wasn't bringing anything up to staff, wasn't providing that transparency, is going to have long-term implications for engagement, recurring engagement at Coinbase. And it's nebulous to say that when you're just talking about engagement. It can be a nebulous thing, but looking at the hard dollar costs, according to Gallup, there's some other sources for this as well, but Gallup is the best by far. This is recent data from, I believe, 2021. So for every disengaged employee, $3,400 of their salary out of every 10,000 earned is lost. It results in higher absenteeism, lower productivity, and lower profitability is what the driver of that 3,400 is out of the 10,000. What this means, and to bring it home, at an average 250-person organization, only 21% of people are engaged at an organization of any size on the averages. But if we just do it with a 250-person organization, it's over 3.1 million in losses annually. You have 198, or a majority of your employees are disengaged. And we assume a $47,000 salary, which I'm sure for many of you, the average salary might be higher. Now, going to the other side of things and how running one of these innovation sprints can help is, outside of just reducing costs, it can actually materially improve engagement and help improve employee communication and transparency. So this is also a study by Gallup. 30% of workers feel that their opinions count at work. And then they looked at the top performing companies where that score was higher and found that increasing that percentage from 30 to 60% of employees feeling like their voice was heard resulted in a 27% reduction in turnover, 40% reduction in safety incidents, and an over 12% increase in productivity. Just kind of bringing this home with a real case study here and a real company. So Squaw Valley Alpine Meadows, we've worked with in the past. They were able to increase 6-month engagement according to McKinsey's Organizational Health Index. In a 6-month period, they did essentially study right before they announced a program for running these types of sprints. Then they ran the sprints for 6 months and did that survey again. Once again, we increased that engagement score by over 74%. The third reason that it's really important to engage frontline team members now more than ever is that for those companies that are doing and doubling down on innovation, like the Apples of the world. So Amazon Prime was actually invented by an employee. And this happened, back in 2005 is when it launched. So the origination of this idea, when it started having some initial testing, it actually came out of that same .com bubble and bust that the iPod did, and ultimately the iPhone. Right now, it in 2020 produced 25.2 billion in revenue, and currently, as of 2019, most recent number we could get, it has over 150 million active subscribers globally. Now going into a couple of examples for inspiration of just other companies, large and small, that are running these types of sprints or just innovation challenges is another terminology that's used for them. So Google is the most recent one in the news. And this is just an example of providing that transparency. They're actually, they're slowing down hiring now, but they increased their workforce size by 30% in the last 12 months. And so they're asking all employees via survey these 3 questions. So around, providing clarity and efficiency to serve users and customers, where can you remove speed bumps to get better results faster, and how do we eliminate waste and stay entrepreneurial as we grow? No results on that one yet, obviously, because, and who knows how much we're actually going to learn from the results. They'll probably report them out, but that just kicked off and ended, I believe, August 15th was the last day that folks could share ideas on that sprint. Looking at InSinkErator, local company to Wisconsin. So they were focused on engaging employees to save time, reduce waste, and increase engagement, specifically around the engineering process and manufacturing process. So their innovation campaigns that they ran, able to engage 50% of their workforce, get $800K in annual savings in the first year across 151 different ideas. Costco, another one that many folks may be familiar with. So they have a program that runs continuously throughout the year. Anybody can submit an idea anytime. So it's not sprint based. It's really just a continuous flow of ideas coming in. One idea that really stood out to me, and one that we could get data on, was literally just taking a circular holding container for cashews and turning it into a square. Just doing that resulted in 560 truckloads in reduced requirement for those truckloads because you could fit more cashews in each truck. So it doesn't need to be world-changing idea like the iPod, right? And really that's the focus for us and what we're promoting to customers right now is just focusing on basics, unless they have the backing, right, for the larger investment and longer time horizon for that return on investment. Southwest, this one isn't necessarily a cost savings, but I had to include it. I'm one of Southwest's biggest fans, but one of the, if anybody here has been on a Southwest flight, I'm sure that you've heard, right, when they come onto the intercom and do the safety check with everybody in the safety announcements, it's not the normal safety announcement that you hear on American or United. So this was actually an employee's idea originally. They have an active suggestion program that's been live, I believe, over 5 years now. But before that formal program was live, they were always open to employee ideas and giving folks autonomy. So this employee just started doing it. It went viral on YouTube, and then they made it a company policy, which is why you have folks giving the types of announcements on Southwest they do today. This is Southwest's figure. They believe that that one idea alone, right, from starting to implement that to today, it actually produces 140 million in customer value annually. Looking at Xerox, so going green while saving green. Looking at the campaign, they still do it continuously now, but it started off as a series of these types of idea sprints where they were trying to figure out how to be more eco-friendly and also try to figure out how to save money in the process. So a lot of the work that was done here over those first couple of campaigns in the first year was $10.2 million in waste reduction was saved. And then it also eliminated over 2,600,000 pounds of waste annually. Like I said, have a few more than 5 in here. So looking at KLM, another airline, but they had a challenge, which was they weren't profitable in their European region. And they were looking for ways to reduce the turnaround time that it took to dock a plane to when the plane actually, left the terminal in order to take off. It was at 50 minutes, and this was a problem that was prevalent for a couple of years, actually. And what they ended up doing was going to the smallest, essentially business unit within Europe, and they watched the entire process and engaged staff at every level of the organization, from literally the janitor that was cleaning the area to the person that was refueling the plane to the pilots, and engaged all those folks, had several ideation sessions, and were able to, in a 6-month period, take that 50 minutes and reduce it down to 35. And that resulted in millions in cost savings, ultimately helping take the European market profitable. Last example here, Exam One, which is a Quest Diagnostics company. So they had a continuous improvement program in place, and they took it digital. They were able to save 1.4 million in 6-month savings and engage 78% of their targeted workforce in the initiative. And what the ideas were was really focused on error rate reduction and also on time savings. Just as an example, one idea to make a form field required ended up saving $125,000 a year based on the number of times that it was happening. About a 1 hour, 1 hours of development time total in order to implement. So last but not the least, wants to dive into framework and action plan, and then we will open things up for questions. So just defining idea sprints, what we often call innovation challenges. It's the process of rapidly collecting, prioritizing, testing, and implementing ideas from frontline employees. And then it could also be extended out to customers or the public at large as well, if you would like, depending on the goals and your use case. But really the things to focus in on is that they are targeted on a specific topic that is related to an organizational goal. There's a defined process to evaluate the ideas and actually action them. And then it's time-based, not always open. So as I explained, Costco, some of the other larger organizations as well, have things that are always open all year round. Just something that we've found is doing those time-based campaigns is going to result in more ideas and higher quality ideas over time. It also helps you clear out your backlog so that you don't get inundated with too many ideas and not enough resources to actually act on them. Just looking at the process at a 40,000-foot view, everybody's process is going to look a little bit different in terms of workflow, but you're going to post a topic, once again, related to that organizational goal. You'll crowdsource ideas from employees where they're able to submit ideas. Ideally, if depending on what medium you're using to collect them, folks can comment and vote on those ideas as well. You'll have a steering committee team. Normally, it should be consistent of senior leadership as well as business unit heads that would be responsible for implementing ideas, involved in evaluating and helping prioritize those ideas, selecting and awarding winners, and really celebrating the folks that participated, and putting that in company newsletters, promoting that out, not just before the campaign happens, but more importantly afterwards. And then from there, the fun part, testing and implementing the top solutions that were shortlisted. So instead of going through everything today with you, the two biggest pieces to focus on, especially for those folks that might have an innovation program that has those longer term time horizon goals, is sitting down with your leadership team to identify the areas of cost savings and biggest areas of waste, and having the conversation with them around reprioritizing some of those goals over the next 12 to 18 months in order to set yourself up for success. Then from there, most importantly, is aggregating that data and putting it into a shareable format that you can actually share to frontline staff when you take your campaign live. Normally, what we like to do is, if we do have access to this data, is package it up and send it out either 2 weeks before or even a month before, start a drip campaign to start sharing out insights around those areas of waste reduction that you're looking to target ideas for. Then from there, the last step, just because this is a 30-minute webinar, we have a whole nother webinar. It's about 30 minutes long as well. That's really focused on, it's a 7-step action plan to plan, promote, and launch a frontline challenge to be successful. So that's going to cover everything under everything from, hey, we want to launch one of these campaigns, all the way through to actually measuring impact on the ideas. So a really valuable resource, and we will share a link out to that after the webinar, along with a couple of those other resources that I referenced throughout the presentation today. So thank you all so much once again for taking the time, and now we will open it up for questions. So it looks like we got one coming in here. So we haven't run a program before to collect ideas. What is a typical engagement rate for a new program? How can I prove the ROI to get buy-in from our leadership? So a couple questions in one there. But just to start off, what can you expect for engagement rate? So it's the answer everybody loves to hate is it depends. It really depends upon number of audience size that you're engaging, as well as how much you can collaborate with marketing for promotion. Normally for our campaigns, what we try to focus on for an initial go live, if we are under 5,000 people being targeted, is between a 50 to 70% sign up rate, and then a activation rate of between 40 and 60%. So you're either going through and posting an idea, commenting on an idea, or voting for an idea. In terms of proving out the ROI, that's really one of the reasons I wanted to provide these anecdotal examples for a lot of them companies that your leadership teams are going to recognize. So like I said, we can share out this slide deck after the presentation here, but really the focus of that was to provide some anecdotal examples, as well as we're going to put a calculator together for that engagement rate, just now that we have some more data behind it in order to help kind of show the cost of disengagement and how we can help move the needle on that. Let's see here. How much time does it take to run a program like this? So for doing the innovation sprint, so doing it in a sprint format, normally the time horizon for actually collecting ideas will be anywhere from 3 weeks to 5 weeks. Our default that we suggest is 4 weeks for the collection. And then you're normally going to have a 2-week period for the evaluation, and then ultimately 1 week to shortlist and announce winners. So it's basically an 8-week process end to end. For that 4 weeks, and also 2 weeks leading up to that, I'd suggest 0.25, 25% of an FTE in order to facilitate the process and just help be a central point of contact in order to make sure that the program's successful. After that, it's really going to depend on the types of ideas that you're going to be implementing. But really for us, what we're focused on, like I said, promoting out to customers now, is focusing on those quick wins, which would be high impact ideas that have a low complexity and low cost to implement. So they can be incorporated and budgeted at a business unit level and handed off after you do that selection. Awesome. We got a couple more here. So we will be sending out a recording of the webinar for everybody. And also, like I said, we'll share out the slide deck with everybody as well. And then thanks everybody for the participation. This is awesome. Generally, what incentives help make this type of engagement stick? So we'll, in that the 7 steps to launch an innovation challenge, it breaks that out very specifically into the types of engagement or types of incentives you can provide that we've seen. Normally in the beginning, we suggest if you can offer prizes to offer prizes. They don't need to be material in nature. They can be lunch with the CEO or lunch with your boss or a company paid party for the department that has the most engagement, as an example. Some of the other things that we've seen that work really well as an intrinsic motivator is actually enabling employee time off of work in order for like a 4-week or an 8-week period to further pursue their idea and try to implement it inside of the organization. But we'll definitely, in our follow-up email, share out the link to incentives, because we just have a direct resource on that, but then also that 7-step webinar that will help walk you through that step by step. Let's see. So what is the biggest challenge for organizations when implementing a new ideas management portal? So I would say once again, the answer everybody loves to hate is it depends in terms of the biggest challenge. I would say for an idea management software specifically, just making it through the IT security and contracting side of things, if you're over 1,000 employees, it's just more of a nuisance and takes time than it is complex and just chase people down. Outside of that, though, it's just making sure that, coordinating with the different folks or parties that you need in order for it to be successful. So those different parties, like I mentioned, are going to be IT just from the onboarding standpoint for a portal. But then from there, the other piece is going to be the marketing and communications team. Normally there's a lead time for that, which extends the timeline it takes to get one of these live if you want to make sure to get that up from promotion. But outside of that, after you actually get the system up and running, it's just going through the first cycle of getting those ideas to like a testing phase and figuring out the handoffs. That's something that, if you have a platform like IdeaWake, we actually include that in all our plans, like helping strategically identify those folks. But, it's not rocket science at the end of the day. It's just making sure that there's alignment between the business unit goals as well as your goals as an innovation team or the types of ideas you're collecting. Awesome. And I think with that, we got all of our questions answered. And we're ending right at 12:30 exactly. So once again, thanks everybody so much. Feel free to follow up with me personally. We'll send out emails afterwards and contact information. My email is Coby, C-O-B-Y, @ideawake.com. And look for the resources that I just mentioned a couple times. And, good luck to everybody over the next 12 to 18 months here. We're here to help in any way that we can. Thanks so much.